My name is James Bennie. I'm a physician, was a physician locally. I'm actually going to be moving, and you'll hear more about that at the end. But I'm a physician that's been teaching a lot of patients for the last year and a half about plant-based nutrition. And what does that mean? It just means I'm trying to get you off your drugs. I'm trying to teach you how to get off your medications, because most people don't want to be on medications the rest of their lives. So I really worked hard, and thankfully to standing on the shoulders of a lot of giants, and you'll see those at the end of the presentation and throughout the whole presentation, that I have learned a lot myself in how to help patients help themselves. And that's really what it's about. So this is a lot. There's a lot of slides. It's a lot of data. I'm going to go through it quick, and I won't even barely scratch the surface of what's out there. There's tens of thousands of research articles that support this. And the only reason that you're going to see so many confusing things is because meat and dairy is in their vested interest to make sure you have the misinformation, because they make lots of money off misinformation. So I'll try to show you what the data shows. I know we have some physicians in here, and they'll be like, oh, well, the power of that study is not adequate. And they're true. There's some things that are going to be, on my side. But the other thing I can also add to it is that all the patients that are in here that have been my patients, and over the last year, thousands of patients that I've treated and watched go on a plant-based diet that have gotten off their medications, has just been phenomenal. And that just reinforces what I do. So I could care less what all the naysayers say. I've had the blessing of all these patients that have believed in me, done it themselves, and watched them get better. All right. So optimizing your health, what does the science say? And this is a new pointer, so forgive me if I mess up here. All right, well, first we need to start with the definition of health. It's the state of being free from disease, illness, or injury. And I'm always surprised that when people come to the physician's office that they don't say, hey, doc, I want to get healthy. They say, I just don't want to be sick. But that's what it's about, and that's what we're talking about today. And everybody really wants this when they come to me. Sometimes they just don't know it. How do you achieve this? Do you have to exercise like crazy? Do you have to meditate all the time? Do you have to count your calories? These are all the things you've heard. I mean, everything, maybe nothing. Do you have to eat a lot of protein? And if you do eat a lot of protein, what kind of protein do you have to eat? Is it meat, eggs, dairy, plants? What's the best? So, what about carbs? Good for you, bad for you? What about pills, vitamins? Are they good for you? I've seen shopping carts full come in my office. Hey, Dr. Bennie, look at all these things I'm taking. And wow, it's a lot of money. Dr. Oz told me to buy every one of them. Well, let's go back to the father of medicine, Hippocrates, and what did he say? Let food be thy medicine. There was a lot of really insightful people 2,400 years ago, like Plato, Hippocrates, that saw that the people that had the heavy laden cream meat diets got really sick, and the people that ate the peasant diet stayed pretty dang healthy. The other thing we need to talk about is epidemiology. Big word, seems confusing, but we need to understand it for what we're doing. So epidemiology is the study, of the science of the study, of the patterns, causes, and effects of health and disease conditions in defined populations. Is that exciting? Not really. But why is it important? Because it's the cornerstone of public health. It directs policy decisions using evidence-based medicine, and that's what we're talking about tonight, and identifies risk factors for disease and targets for preventative medicine. And that's how we really can look at ourselves across the world and see, are we dying faster than another population? Is another population living longer than us? And we do those comparative analysis, and then we can do our own studies and see if there's a benefit to it. So let's start off with some epidemiology. What are we looking at here? Causes of death, 2010, USA. Heart disease, #1, cancers, #2, lung disease, strokes, accidents, Alzheimer's, diabetes. You guys have all heard this. And we're going to go to another country, little different country, Mozambique. Why Mozambique? Because they have a lot of different reasons that they die, like HIV, malaria. Look all the way down here. Stroke is 5th, coronary heart disease 6th, and look at the cancers. Look at how far they're on the list. 29, 42, 45 for breast cancer. Not in America. So what are they doing different that we're not doing? Then we also look at Uganda. Why do we have to look there? Because these are the people that still don't have a lot of money, and so they're eating the peasant's diet. So we see a lot of different things happening there. Epidemiology. Look at them, HIV again, all the way down 7th is coronary heart disease, and all the cancer is very low. But all that data that I just showed you doesn't really mean a whole lot, because we have to compare apples to apples. We can't just look at what people are dying from. But the other thing that's interesting in Uganda is you're more likely to die from vitamin A deficiency than colon cancer. Not in the US. So, apples to apples. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to compare death rates of heart disease. And this we have to look at how many people die per how many in a group. And in the US, for heart disease, 1.5 per 1,000. In Uganda, it's 4 per 10,000. So we have 3 times the higher risk of dying from heart disease in the US compared to Uganda. And then if we look at prostate cancer, we have 5 times the higher risk of dying from prostate cancer in the US than Mozambique. So what the heck are we doing that's killing people quicker in the US that's not killing them over there? Let's look at breast cancer. We have 7.5 times the higher risk of dying from breast cancer in the US versus Mozambique. And what about colon cancer? 10 times the risk. Colon cancer, US versus Uganda. So obviously we are doing something, and who knows what it is, and you're going to learn that, but we're doing something different than these people. And it's not good. Well, let's look at the diets, because I think that's where everything starts personally. And what do they eat in Uganda? They eat maize and sesame with spinach and peanuts and mashed plantains. And then we'll look at Mozambique, and what do they eat? They eat a lot of breads, because their Portuguese have come and invaded them so long ago. Avocado salad, string bean soup, pineapples marinated in port wine. Some really good stuff, but if you notice, all these are plant-based, so really pay attention to that. The other things that they eat in Mozambique is they eat cassava, which just makes tapioca, and spinach salad and cassava leaves, and they even have some clams. But if you notice, yeah, there's meat in there, but very little. And they have clams. Mozambique's right on the ocean. So, what does the Grand Prix of epidemiology say? You guys, if you've been to my office, you've heard about the China study, and that's what the New York Times calls it. Why? Because they looked at 350 variables of health and nutrition, and they were able to show that all these people in China that followed basically a pauper's diet, a peasant diet, a poor person's diet, didn't have all these diseases that kill us in the US. So the story begins. Colin Campbell, researcher from Cornell whose interest was in cancer, how it started, how it spread, how it grew, and ultimately how it killed people. In his young life, he grew up on a meat and dairy farm, eating bacon, eggs, cheese, milk, meat, all the sausage, delish. And he even defended milk. But then, as the researcher, he discovered that any animal protein eaten in your diet that's above 5% turns on the genes that promote cancer. Powerful stuff. That's 1 meal a week. 1 meal. Starts to turn on those genes that promote cancer. 1 meal of meat, eggs, cheese. So what does that mean? What's that in serving size? 5% of 2,000 calories is 100 calories per day. Then we look at beef, tri-tip cooked, 1 ounce, 50 calories, that's 2 ounces. So it's like come out to 2/3 of a deck of cards in size for your meat. That's the most you can have a day before you would start turning on the genes that promote cancer. But that's not to say, if I can use the pointer here, you won't increase your cholesterol, right? And your fat. And it will sit in your gut forever because it has no fiber. Well, he did a wonderful study where he looked at the actual amount of protein needed for body growth. And what he found is at 10%, there's about 8% growth in cancer, which falls in the genetic makeup. That's what people are going to get, whether they like it or not. It's your genetic makeup, and I wish we could turn those off, but sometimes you just can't. So that's about between 5 and 15%. But then if you increase your protein by 2% from 10 to 12, look what happens to the cancer. You go from 8% cancers to now 22. And then if you go to 14%, you've only increased it 4%. And now you're up at promoting cancer 70% of the time. You're growing cancers in your body eating that little amount of protein. And of course, you know what's coming next. Look at when you're at 20%, kind of the typical American diet. We value our barbecues. Like in Texas, barbecuing is a sport. They're going to pack down as many briskets they can in a short amount of time. But look at the cancer they're promoting. Then they looked at plants. Now it's a really good study because you want to look at plants. You want to do a comparative analysis. So first they looked at the milk protein. I say 87% of milk is casein. And at 20% in your diet, you got about a 75, 80% cancer growth. You're growing a lot of cancer. But then we look at 5% casein, and you're back to the genetically predisposed level, that whatever your genes, whatever your DNA is going to make you. But then we looked at plants. 20% plant protein compared to 20% casein, you're still in that genetic realm. It didn't turn on the genes that promoted cancer. And that was powerful stuff, and that's what he saw. And that's why Colin Campbell up there actually stopped eating that way. At Cornell University, he went and told all his colleagues, and they laughed at him. And you know, if you read the China study, he talks about them. They're dead or have dementia. He's an internationally renowned speaker who's going to be here Friday, right? Still talking and walking and very thoughtful and very thought-provoking still to this day. I think he's 79 now. He's doing great. Plants. So how long does cancer have to grow before we can see it with the most sensitive imaging? Mammogram, MRI, colonoscopy, CT? Any guesses? Think you just go to the doctor one day and they say you got cancer and it just happened the day before? 10 years. So that cancer was growing 10 years ago before they can see it with the best imaging. And remember, cancer has to start out at one cell, it has to double, and it keeps doubling and doubling until it's about 1 billion cells. That's when we can finally see it. And depending on the cancer, some grow faster, some grow slower. But 10 years that's been brewing in there. So when you get that diagnosis, if you ever do, and I hope you don't, know that it wasn't something you just did yesterday, it's something you were doing a long time ago. So the China study, you heard about that, and we're going to move on to the background. So it followed 6,500 rural and semi-rural Chinese between the ages of 35 and 64 for 10 years, but effectively for 30, where 89 to 94% don't migrate. And that's important because that's the way we got to see them eat the same food and how that affected them throughout their lives. And when they died, they did autopsies on them, and you know what they found? They found that healthiest people were the poor people. Now, why were they the healthiest people? Because they ate rice and vegetables. They couldn't afford the cow. Well, what happens when they got the cow? Nah, they got a little bit of money, bought the cow, now they get all the milk, cheese, and meat they wanted. And that's what people drive to. Our whole body is geared towards finding things that are higher in calorie density. That's a basic need of the human. But we have to be smarter, and our brain has to say, you know, maybe we don't need that. But that's what they did. They said, hey, I'm going to start eating this stuff. I don't know what's going to happen. I just like it. My body's telling me to eat it. Eat those calories. But then what they started to see, heart disease, diabetes, cancer. And then they looked at the richest people, and the richest people ate just like Americans. And what happens when you eat just like an American? You die like an American. It's pretty sad. That's colon cancer up there. That's what happens when you eat a bunch of stuff that doesn't have fiber and all this meat in it. Just wanted to do a little graphic stuff for you. All right, so what does the science say? These are back into the study things. Vegan diet, the only diet to reduce overall cancer risk. This was back in 2012. They looked at this. Dietary patterns were examined of non-vegetarians, lacto-vegetarians, fish vegetarians, vegan, and semi-vegetarians. What did it find? Reducing overall risk by 16% was only found in the vegan diet. And for women, it reduced their breast and ovarian cancer by 34%. No other diet had that effect. Powerful stuff. So, did you know since January 2011, Medicare has been paying for this? Why would Medicare spend $3,500 to teach you to eat plants? Well, they want you to go to Nathan Pritikin Center, or they want you to go to Dean Ornish down to UCSF to teach you to eat plants. The reason is because you can reverse all these diseases. Here you go. If you could stop one stent, you'd save $80,000. One bypass, $150,000. Compare that to $3,500. Come on, get them to eat plants. We can save a lot of money. Come on, Medicare's backs up against the wall. I mean, would we have a healthcare crisis if we started getting them to do that? If we could stop all these strokes, these cancers, the diabetes, the autoimmune disorders, and reverse all that heart disease, Medicare would save billions. No, trillions of dollars. There would be no healthcare crisis. All right, well, funny transition there. So, what's so important about this guy, Dean Ornish, I already showed you about? Ornish schmornish, right? No, this guy went against the system and did a lot of really good research and did amazing things. In the early 1990s, showed you could reverse heart disease on a plant-based diet. Then in the late 90s, showed you could reverse diabetes on a plant-based diet. Then in the early 2000s, showed you can elongate life on a plant-based diet. And then the late 2000s, 2008, showed you reverse prostate cancer and kill cancer cells on a plant-based diet. It was after that that Medicare said, you know what, this is ridiculous what we're watching going on here. Maybe we should start to do this for heart disease, and that's why they started doing it. And he has preliminary results on his website. You can look up Dean Ornish, and you'll be able to find all the same information and find out he's got about, I think it's a 95 to 98% compliance rate. So it's really not that hard. At first it seems crazy. I can't give up my meat, eggs, all that kind of stuff. But when you start feeling better and you have a lot of encouragement from your spouses and hopefully from the medical people in the community, it becomes very easy. And hopefully it would be my ideal to see everybody in this room be able to get together once, twice, every other month and have potlucks where you can share recipes, because that's the way you're really going to be able to do this and stick to it. It really keeps your mind on it, because it's too easy to go down. I mean, I can't drive down the street and find Gorilla Bites on the corner that I just pull in and say, hey, I'd like a Buddha bowl, please. I'd like a Zen bowl. No, it's Carl's Jr. and Taco Bell and everything else on the corner. It makes it too easy for us to just say, it's not worth it. I'm just going to go eat this. All right, back to the China study. Well, what does Ornish Schmornish say about this book? Yeah, the Grand Prix of Epidemiology. Well, everyone in the field of nutrition science stands on the shoulders of Dr. Campbell, who is one of the giants in the field. This is one of the most important books about nutrition ever written, and reading it may save your life. Pretty dang powerful statement, I think, coming from the guy that Medicare pays. Well, let's see why. He's a cardiologist. Well, here we go. This is a coronary artery, and this is if I shoot it full of dye and take a picture of it, that's what I want to see, a nice big wide caliber vessel with lots of smooth walls. But right here, this is an abnormal coronary artery. If you look right there, there's a 50% blockage, 90% blockage there, very diffuse disease in this artery. Well, this is a real case study of a 44-year-old male physician surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic, total cholesterol of 154, no family history of CAD. He has a heart attack and dies twice. He gets back to life, and they tell him, sorry, buddy, we can't do a bypass, it's too small to graft. We can't do multiple stents. There's nothing we can do for you. Go out to pasture and die like an old cow. That's why he's depressed. 3 young girls told him to just go out and die, and you're 44 years old. So luckily, we gotta go past here, 3 doors down from him was this guy, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, famous surgeon, cancer surgeon at Cleveland Clinic. And he'd already been working with people with very severe disease like this and putting them on a very strict diet, plant-based, no oils. Seems crazy, but the people that he was given were on their deathbed. They were told that they would not live another 6 months to a year. So he said, I've had great success by doing this. Why don't you do this? You got this guy all pumped up. He got so excited. He said, I'm going to do it. So he did. Went on a plant-based diet for 2.5 years. Then he has an episode of heart pain. He's rushed him to the cath lab, shoot him full of dye again, and they take a look. And what did they find? This is what they found. This is before, and this is after. Complete reversal of his heart disease. That's what Ornish has shown. That's what Esselstyn has shown. And what's so amazing about Esselstyn is he's done this in 17 people that have all followed this for 24 years. I think maybe 27, I have that correct. Is that they're all still alive today if they've followed that lifestyle. Powerful stuff, reversing their heart disease. You don't have to go to the doctor. You don't have to be pumped full of meds unless you want to do that. It's your choice. So, complete reversal of his heart disease. Let's go on and look at them. I want you to look at this study because same study, but these are the actual images of cath. And I want you to really pay attention. Look at the background here. See, it's all gray. You don't see much what we call collateral flow. We don't see many little tiny arteries coming off this big one. But this is at the 2.5 years on that plant-based diet. Look at how it's changed. Look at all this vascularity. All right, think about this. You've got 67,000 miles of arteries and veins in your body. Think about your brain. Think about your big toe. Think about everything in between. And now you're feeling better, you're having more energy, you're sleeping better. You're reversing the whole process of aging just by changing what you're putting on your fork. The other thing I wanted to say is that Dr. Esselstyn was also ridiculed. He was almost kicked out of the Cleveland Clinic. Why was he kicked out? You don't want to kick out the guy that's reversing people on plants, and we can't do a cath, and we can't make hundreds of thousands of dollars off this. We don't want that. Get him out of here. And he makes jokes of it. I mean, if you ever heard of any of his lectures, it's really fun to watch because he always says, and here's our new health center. And he shows like this old beat down barn with a roof falling off, and that's how much money they're giving me to help people eat plants. And there was some truth to that. It's gotten a little bit more now. But now he's been voted the #1 Cleveland Clinic doctor and #3 of all time for the work he has done, which is landmark. It's powerful. There he is standing in front of Forks Over Knives. You'll hear more about that here at the end. But there's his book, Reversing Heart Disease. In fact, every single patient that stayed on the plant-based lifestyle with no oil, that's important. If you ever hear his lecture, that's what he's going to tell you. No oil. 17 out of 24 are still alive today 26 years later. The ones who didn't stay on the plan, well, what do you think happened? Heart attack, death, bypass. It was their choice, though, and that's okay. It's your choice. Life is that choice. We're teaching you how, if you want, you can make better choices. What about President Clinton? Anybody know a little bit about him and what's happened with him? He had a quadruple bypass in 2008, had some brain damage from the hypoxia that's so common when you get put on a heart-lung machine. And then because of his lack of changing his diet, remember, heart bypasses are supposed to last 10 to 15 years. 2 years later, he's back getting 2 more stents because he's having the McDonald's diet, right? That's what he does. But then he met Dean Ornish, Caldwell Esselstyn, went on a plant-based diet, and now he's back to the same weight he was in high school. He's feeling great. In fact, I saw an interview with him on David Letterman, who both have zippers in their chest. That's what we fondly refer to as the zipper. You get a bypass. David Letterman asked him, I said, why do you do this? Why would you want to change your lifestyle? He said, because I have my daughter, and I want to see my grandkids. And that was more important to me than what I was eating. Powerful stuff. And if you ever watch his interviews, he gets very emotional. Saved his life. So, what does the science say? Consuming a vegetarian diet was associated with 32% lower ischemic heart disease than non-vegetarians. Lower BMI, which means lower weight, lower bad cholesterol, lower systolic blood pressure. These are things we're finding time and time again. This is just one study. There's hundreds of studies that show this kind of stuff now. Here's another one, low-carb diets. Everybody likes, oh, can't eat carbs, got to eat the paleo diet. Well, here's what happens if you do. You increase your risk of heart disease. This is 44,000 Swedish women they followed. Ate a diet low in carbohydrates and high in protein increase their risk of heart disease. In fact, every 10% decrease in carbohydrate intake, isn't that what they tell us carbs are bad for us? For every 10% decrease in carbohydrate intake or increase in protein intake resulted in 5% increased risk of heart disease. So should we go home and pull out some chicken, or should we pull out a potato? Choice is ours, but it's pretty clear. That was 2012. These are coming out crazy. Another low-carb diet, 140,000 people followed for 40,000 years. Now, the power of this study is immense. And what's so cool about the European nations is that they're socialized, so they can gather all this data and really follow these people for very long periods of time. And what did they find? That the low-carb diets were found to lead to weight gain and heightened risk of heart disease. Crazy stuff. So, I want to talk about something that's about the human cell wall, and the reason I do, because they're like, well, Dr. Bennie, I eat really lean meats. I mean, I look at that meat and I don't see any fat on it. Yeah, you can't see it on it, but if you go down to the cell wall level, these are all the cells in the body. Almost every single one of our cells are made what we call a phospholipid bilayer. That's all these little white dots and blue dots. That's lipid, fat, impregnated with these little yellow dots called cholesterol. So even though you think it's lean, you're just loading fat and cholesterol on your body. And guess what the worst one is for meat? Chicken. Looks the leanest, but it's the worst. So lean meats, like to show you this picture. There is chicken, steak. These all look lean, right? I pulled up these all off the internet. Lean meats, lean meats. But those lean meats with that will give you colon cancer, right? Heart disease. I thought that would make it a little bit more appetizing if I added that picture. So if you've watched Forks Over Knives, I don't know, some of you I'm sure have. This is a fantastic graph. This graph is in Norway. I don't know if you can see that. This is back in 1927. And they showed how vascular disease, circulatory diseases kept creeping up and creeping up and creeping up until the Germans invaded. And what did the Germans do at this time in about 1940? They took everybody's cows and milk and everything away, so they had to eat the poor person's diet again. They had to go back to vegetables and kind of starve too, but went back to the vegetables and the grains. And look what happened to their heart disease. It plummeted until 1945 when hostilities stopped and we got rid of Hitler. And look what happened. They got their cows and their milk back. And look what happened to the vascular disease. Went right back up. And you can see this for World War I. You can also see the same thing for diabetes. It's exactly the same pattern. It's what we're eating that's causing the problem. So, anybody heard of the Daniel fast? Real popular biblical fast. Daniel fasted for 21 days, denied everything. Well, I want to read you a little bit about this, and I know this is really hard to read, so bear with me, but it's very important. The background of this is the dietary modification via decreasing your calories is associated with multiple effects related to improved metabolic and cardiovascular health. However, reducing calories is not well tolerated by many individuals. Has anybody ever tried to do that? Reduce your calories? Ah, screw that, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just going to go have a hamburger. I feel hungry all the time. I don't like it. And so what happens is that, I went the wrong way, go back, is that the reduction in calories is not well tolerated, so it limits the long-term application of that. But the Daniel fast is a widely utilized fast that's based on the biblical book of Daniel and involves a 21-day ad libitum. That means you eat as much as you want. That's right, I said that. You can eat as much as you want. Intake period devoid of any animal products and preservatives, and inclusive of ready fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. And the purpose of the present study was to determine the effects of the Daniel fast to improve markers of metabolic and cardiovascular inflammation and risk. And I know it's wordy, but it's so important. This is only 21 days. What did they find? They've done this many, many times. The 21-day period, modified dietary intake in accordance with the Daniel fast, which is a vegan diet, is well tolerated by men and women. Why? Because they can eat as much as they want. You can be a pig all day long, little piggy, eat, eat, eat. And you just aren't going to gain the weight because you just don't have the density of the calories. But it improves several risk factors for metabolic and cardiovascular disease. What does it improve? Your total cholesterol goes down. Average was 32 points. LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, you still need it in your diet, right? You don't have it, you'll die. But LDL went down. It's one of the risk factors we look for by 22 points. Remember, this is only 21 days. Systolic blood pressure went down. You have improvement in kidney function. And this is very important, is that this is 21 days. But when I've worked with Dr. McDougall, who if you haven't heard from him, you'll see more about him in a little bit. We take in all these people and we control their food. We give them all this wonderful food. We do not give them any meat. We do not give them any dairy. We do not give them any fats, no nuts and seeds, no avocados. But they get all these beautiful vegetables. You get the grains, you get the beans, you get the corn tortillas, and you get to go back and eat as much as you want. And I had the wonderful privilege of watching about 25 patients. So it was 70 overall, but 25 of my patients. And I had one patient that dropped their cholesterol in 5 days, 90 points. 90. And that's like average. For a lot of these people over 3-4 months, this guy's getting it in 5 days. And if the average, what I was getting most of my patients was between 30 and 60 points of dropping their cholesterol. So do you have to take that cholesterol medication? Yeah, if you want. And if you want all the side effects like dementia, diabetes, muscle deterioration, well-known, well-established, it's all over as FDA warnings, but your doctor's more than happy to throw that cholesterol medication on you. Why? Because you won't do it. You aren't going to change your lifestyle. I just know it. So I'm just going to give you this drug. And then we'll give you diabetes, you can come back, and we'll give you a pill for that, and then you'll come back with muscle aches, and we'll give you some Vicodin for that, and we'll just keep you until you got this shopping cart full of pills coming into the office. It's not a good choice. So, this is the fun part. Do carbs cause diabetes or fats? Everybody in this room, if you've come to me, you know the answer to this. But the general population is going to say what? Carbs. Carbs cause diabetes, right? Well, let's see if that's the answer. Let's see what happens here. So here we have another epidemiologic study back in 1925 where we looked at carbohydrate and fat intake and related that to diabetes. There's the carbs, there's the fat, and then we looked at the death rate associated with diabetes. And here in Japan, they had about 6% of their diet was fat, and the 90% was carbs. And what happens, there's 6%, I'm sorry, and that 2.5 people died per that population of 100,000. So what happens when we decrease the carbohydrates and we increase the fats? What happens to the death rate? The death rate increases. So as you decrease your carbs and increase your fats, your death rates increase. And who back in 1925 was the world leader in killing people with diabetes? God, it's great to be number one. 1925, come on. Why don't they help us out? And why don't they teach it? Why don't they teach me in med school this? Why don't they teach every doctor? Is it conspiracy? I don't know, but it's pretty interesting. So, do carbs cause diabetes or fats cause diabetes? All right, let's see if we can get this one a little better. So we're going to go to Japan and go right next door to Italy on this graph. And we're going to look at What's so good about Italy? The pastas, the potatoes, the vegetables, the bread, and the olive oil. Everybody loves their olive oil. Please, Dr. Benny, don't tell me I have to stop my olive oil. It does taste good, but is it good for you is the question. Well, when you compare us to the USA to Italy, it's probably better, but when you compare it to Japan, 6% diet going to a 20% fat diet, what happens to the death? It goes from 2.5 to 8. You just tripled your death rate with some good fats. They're good for me, I know it. Guess they aren't so good for you. So, back to the question. Carbs cause diabetes or fats cause diabetes? So let's look at this study. This is a wonderful study, again, back in 1986. Here we've got type 1 diabetics, type 2 diabetics. Type 1 don't make any insulin at all. Type 2 don't make enough, but they're both on 28 units of insulin. Here's your insulin, about 28 units. And here what we did was he took them from the standard American diet, notice the acronym SAD, the SAD diet, the standard American diet, and we put them on a high carbohydrate, high fiber, low fat diet. What happened? Type 1 diabetics dropped their insulin dose by 41% in only 2.5 weeks. They went from 28 to 18. Crazy, right? People have never heard that you can do that. And all they did was put them on a high carbohydrate, high fiber diet. What about the type 2 patients? The type 2 patients went from 28 units to 5 units in 2.5 weeks, and at 6 weeks, were off their insulin. Type 2 diabetics dropped their insulin dose to nothing. All but one patient were able to stop their insulin in 6 weeks. That's powerful stuff. 1986, guys. 1986, we knew this. So, carbs cause diabetes or fats? God, we're taking out the fats. These people are getting better. I think I might have to, I think that might be fats causing it. Fats cause diabetes, not the carbohydrates, even avocados. I'll tell you a story. I had a patient came in, went completely plant-based, and this number that we look at that looks at their diabetes was at 6. We don't want to see it go up beyond that. Hers went to 8, which is a huge jump. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I swear I'm strict. I'm plant-based. Well, what are you eating? She was eating 2 bowls of guacamole every single day. It's a fat. So is there anything as a good fat? No, there's only essential. That's omega-3 and omega-6. And how much do we actually need in our diet a day? What does the science prove? 3 walnuts a day. We need the same omega-3 and omega-6 in our diet as every animal in the herb kingdom: elephant, giraffe, rhino, hippocampus, moose, egg, deer, gazelle. They need omega-3s and omega-6 too. Where do they get it? When the humans turn away, do they say, fire up the Barbie? Here, looking, have some salmon. No, they don't do that. They're eating plants. 8 to 9 servings of plants will give you all the omega-3 and omega-6 that you need ever. You don't need any more. But if you want an insurance policy, 3 walnuts, half a tablespoon of flaxseed will be all the fats that you need. We've been duped to think that you need all these things. We just don't. So, how does fat cause diabetes? I'll go through this really quick. I don't know if anybody has diabetes, but this is a quick thing. But what we're going to do here is I'm going to look at the cell wall, okay? Here we have the outside of the cell and the cell wall, and we have the inside of the cell, and we have Obama eating a hamburger. And then what happens is, let me go back here. We're going to show that. I want to see Obama do that again. There he is, eating a hamburger. And that increases your blood sugar. Blood sugar causes insulin to be produced by the pancreas. The pancreas comes down and pushes that insulin into the blood, which causes this crazy intrasignaling cascade, opening the blood sugar pores and causing the sugar to go in. Want to do that again? I love this. I just love Obama eating that. There's Obama eating the fat and sugar. Glucose goes up. Pancreas secretes insulin. Insulin gets secreted into the blood, hits the receptors, causes that crazy intrasignaling cascade, causing the pores to open up. Sugar gets inside the cell. That's cool. But what happens when you add an Obama burger? Well, that gets inside the cell very easily, and that blocks that whole intrasignaling cascade, stopping that pore from opening up. So what happens to all the sugar? It just keeps building up and building up and building up and building up, and over time, you end up with high blood sugar and then full-blown diabetes because you didn't get the fat out of your diet. They told you the carbs. And you went home and had yourself a nice steak. So, if fats cause diabetes, why does everyone tell us to keep watching our carbs? All right. So, can you reverse diabetes? This has been a big bone of contention. Well, now we have a study that actually shows we can actually reverse. Before they said you could not do this, but that's not what was shown. We did actual gastric bypass in patients. That's where we cut their stomach out, make it really tiny so you can't eat a lot, and we forcibly stop them from eating a lot of calories. And guess what happened? Their insulin cells, their beta cells, started producing more insulin. They were shocked. They said, well, instead of cutting their stomach out, which seems rather drastic, why don't we put them on a 600-calorie diet? So that's what they did. They put them on a 600-calorie diet, and what did they find? They found that on the 600-calorie diet, they had normalization of both the beta cell function and hepatic insulin sensitivity in type 2 diabetes, and was achieved by dietary energy restriction alone, 600 kcals. The abnormalities underlying type 2 diabetes are reversible by reducing dietary energy intake. Landmark study. Landmark. It really has changed the face, and there's a lot of people that are pissed that I was actually going to say that. I've had people get in my face saying, you cannot do this. It can't happen. It can happen. And it did. Sorry, it's the truth. So, lifestyle intervention for diabetes is more cost-effective than drugs. Go figure. Getting people to eat plants, making them healthy, getting out and walking a little bit, just strolling like I am on this stage. All these things are good for you and actually very beneficial. And what they showed in this 10-year study was that reduction of diabetes incidence by 58% in the diet and exercise group compared to 31% of the group just taking metformin and not changing their diet. That makes a lot of sense, and it's going to be beneficial for you because then you don't have to go around with that little stigma of I'm diabetic, I've got to watch my carbs, all these problems that go along with it, and then taking all these medications that go along with it. So the next thing I'm going to show you related to fats is from a wonderful researcher, Roy Swank. And Roy Swank was a neurologist at Oregon State University Health Sciences. And he showed, this is really the coolest thing, this guy was reversing multiple sclerosis, all right, in the 1950s. Reversing it. Well documented. I know people that have never heard that. Now, why would you not hear about it? You know why? Because it's a plant-based diet, and you can't patent a plant-based diet. It's pretty sad that you could tell people this. If you want to change your lifestyle, we can stop you from having MS, which is multiply deteriorating, and then you can't even walk, you're in a wheelchair, and then you slowly just basically die. It's sad, and I've seen patients do that. 1950. Anyway, what he did was he took this hamster, and you know what hamsters eat? Plants, right? Grains. Fed them a bunch of grains, and they visualized their vasculature when he ate grains. And hopefully this will work. I don't know how to see. How do I click on this? Can you click on the mouse and click that? Click on that. Click on the actual image. Yeah. All right, so this is blood flow here in an actual hamster on a plant-based diet. You can see it's streaming along here, cruising along really fast. And then you're going to see when they put fats in its mouth. But look at that. That's screamy. You cannot count a blood cell. That is so dang fast. Plant-based diet. Imagine this is your vasculature too, so this is what it is. Then they give them a fatty meal. Look what happens. Sludge. Yeah. That's what happens inside you. You wonder why you clot off. You wonder why the doctor wants you to take aspirin. Keep eating fat. Keep eating protein loaded with the fat. And that's what your blood looks like. In fact, your blood looks like that for about 6 to 10 hours after you eat a fatty, protein-laden meal. And they know that now. I mean, there's multiple other studies. I won't go into it. It's just phenomenal. But, I could read studies all day long, but nothing's as good as just watching this. Finally, the blood's coming back. Look, 10 hours after, it's starting to come back, but it definitely isn't as fast as you saw it, right? So imagine if you did that 3 times a day, 7 days a week. No wonder you get out of bed sluggish. It's like your blood can't even move through your arteries. It's like, do I have to? I don't want to give you oxygen. I'm tired. All right. Where am I going to get my protein? This is the one I love the most. If I heard that, I really do. I wish I had just $1 every time I heard that. And my medical school loans would be paid off, and I'd probably be staying in Reading. No, I wish. So, well, where does the elephant, giraffe, rhino, hippo, cow, moose, egg, pillagers get their protein? Plants. They get it from plants. I mean, they must get a lot of protein. It's plants. Well, that's a great logical argument, Dr. Bennie, but let's do something scientific. Let's compare it. Well, let's do that. So we have this really cool study that they did where they took nutrient composition of a plant-based and animal-based diet. And for the plant-based foods, we used equal parts of tomatoes, spinach, lima beans, peas, and potatoes. And for the animal-based foods, we used equal parts of beef, pork, chicken, and whole milk. Ground up all the components, and what do we find? How much cholesterol in plants? None. Plants don't make cholesterol, they make fiber for their cell walls. But what about animals? We make tons of cholesterol. I showed you the cell wall, right? We got lots of cholesterol, but guess what we don't make? We don't make fiber. So the minute we stop eating each other, guess what? Our cholesterol goes down to what our body intended, and we have wonderful bowel movements. And I've never met a person that wasn't happy having a good bowel movement. They just didn't come tell me all the time, but you're a much happier person for it. What about fat? 4 grams of unsaturated in the plants to 36 in the animal products, much more saturated fat. What about protein? Any guess? 33 grams of protein in the plants. Anticipation. Oh, what's going to happen? 34. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Tomatoes, spinach, lima beans, peas, and potatoes has the same amount of freaking protein as beef, pork, chicken, and whole milk? That's not what they're telling you every night on TV, huh? What about beta-carotene? 30,000 micrograms to 17. That's a joke. If you don't have beta-carotene, vitamin A in your diet, you'll actually go blind. How come the cow, the pig, and the chicken don't? Oh, they aren't eating each other. What about vitamin C? 293 to 4. Folate, 1168 to 19. Vitamin E, 11 to 0.5. Iron, 20 to 2. Magnesium, 548 to 51. But here's the kicker. 252 milligrams of calcium in milk to 545 in plants, twice as much. Well, how can that be? Well, think about it. The cow eats the plant, saves half the calcium for its own teeth and bones, and gives you the other half as milk. So why don't you just eliminate the middle cow and go straight to the plant, right? Now, if we made this 2,000 calorie diet, you multiply everything times 4, now you have 2,000 milligrams calcium, magnesium, 80 milligrams of iron, a whopping amount of phytonutrients, and 120 grams of fiber. You are going to have good bowel movements, maybe even at 2 or 3 in the morning when you didn't want them. Protein, 140 grams. Does anybody know the RDA for an adult male? 50 to 55 grams. They're talking about raising it to 65. Woohoo, 65 grams for an adult male. What about female? 55 grams. Let's push it. Whoa, 55. That's 140. More than enough for a bodybuilder. Come on, there's plenty of protein in that. We've been duped. We've been duped as society. Get sick and tired of it and start educating yourself. Don't let yourself be duped anymore. Don't listen to what they say on TV. It really is sad. And then 16 grams of unsaturated fat and absolutely no cholesterol. And you can see why you get all the nutrients and why you really start to reverse your disease on a scientific comparison chart there. So don't believe what you see. Now, where do I get my protein? Well, this guy's, what's his shirt say? Everybody see that? I Heart Tofu. This is Billy Simmons. He's deadlifting 800 pounds. How can that be? Because he goes to the gym 7 days a week, works out about 7, 8 hours a day, and eats lots and lots of tofu and beans and rice, all that kind of stuff. So you can do it, you just have to be willing to do it. There he is. There's when he won 2009 Mr. Natural Universe. That's Billy Simmons again. What do you think he says when they say, where do you get your protein? I don't know. What about this guy? This is Joe Kirkillis, vegan. I just love that shirt. Look at those guns. Come on. I'm trying to show you that there's a myth been dispelled by one meat and dairy that you have to eat that to be like that. It's full BS. What about this? There's Joe Kirkillis again. Now, I don't know about you. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger is wonderful, but the guy was huge. The guy was on steroids. It was legal back then. This guy's healthy and just ripped. Just absolutely ripped. Is there any girls in here that would hate to have a guy that looked that good? Well, maybe you would. You say that's kind of sick. But that guy's, that's amazing, plant-based. What about Dave Scott? Dave Scott, 6-time Ironman winner. There's only been one person that's ever tied him, and that was, oh God, why is space his name? That was, I'll think, it'll come to me. But anyway, Dave Scott, 6-time Ironman winner, all while vegan. He's won other ones, and he wasn't vegan on those. He even tells you about that. He's got some second places and third place, but 6-time. Here's a guy that we got to meet, Rich Roll. He got the top 25 fittest men in the world. He was vegan after age 40. Top 25, he did that after 40. So imagine if you started doing it. You think you start feeling just a little bit better? You feel a lot better. There's something even more powerful about this guy. This is what blows my mind. This guy completed, all vegan, 5 Ironmans, 7 days. All vegan. No one else can do that. You eat meats and you eat fats, you cannot do this. These are the winners, and the reason they're winners is because plants give you the fuel to power. Ask the Kenyans. Are they getting done? They're saying, give me my quinoa or give me my meat. They want their quinoa. They want what powers them up. That's powerful stuff. What about Carl Lewis? A lot of people probably remember Carl Lewis. Do you know he was vegan? I didn't know that. That was powerful stuff. The guy's got 9 gold medals. That's pretty dang powerful. Fastest man in the world at the time. Longest jump, long jumper, triple jumper. So this is an interesting study. I know it's boring to look at that, but they took 8 guys, took them to maximal exercise and fed them beet juice. So what happened? Well, what they found is that they exercised at a severe work rate, and they gave them beetroot and juice. And what they found was that their VO2 uptake, which is how much you use oxygen, actually went down. Their body was actually working more efficiently. Like, wow, that's crazy. So what they did with these 16 guys, these 8 guys, is they switched them over to another group and gave them both the beet juice, but one they took, what we're looking for in here is nitrates. They took the nitrates out of that. And what they found the other group, when they exercised maximally, they went 16% farther than the other group. Powerful stuff. Plant-based diet. The nitrates in plants vasodilate your arteries. Have you ever heard of nitroglycerin? Anybody ever taken nitroglycerin? You put it under your tongue because it dilates your vasculature. Well, you can do it by eating plants. You don't have to put that under. So just imagine if you're the exercise guy and you want to be better than everybody else and you can dilate your arteries up just a little bit more. You think you're going to be a winner? You're going to at least be in the contention versus somebody that's not doing that, and you're going to outperform everybody. So this was a really cool study. We looked at kale. This is for nitrates in vegetables, beets, spring mix, cilantro, arugula, and there's beet juice. So the highest on here is arugula, and it has 18 times more nitrates than kale, and kale is one of the big things. You hear all the vegans, oh, I love my kale. I even have a shirt that says kale, from the University of Kale. Arugula, I want one that says the University of Nitrates. Arugula, I want to dilate those arteries up. I'm a big cyclist. So for me to get more oxygen to my tissues when I'm pushing it, I'll be my personal best. I'll win in races. And any of you could do this too. If you're trying to beat your personal best, you'll see your times go down. I've had multiple patients that have done this, that have seen their personal times get way better. Minutes. It's huge. What about fish? Good for you? Bad for you? Like the joke. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. Am I right? All right, bad joke, but that's why I put it up there. Well, here's a fish. This is an interesting study where they went and looked at all these fish, and they went and looked at drugs in these fish. Well, why would there be anti-seizure medications, Benadryl, blood pressure medications, Prozac in their brains? Why would they find those? It's kind of crazy, thinking you're eating a fish, thinking you're being healthy, and you're getting all these drugs in there. That's because every medication that anybody has ever taken in their life, they peed into the toilet. And as they pee into the toilet, it goes through the treatment plants and does not get treated. It just goes right out into the waterways. And where does that go? Right out to the oceans. And guess what? All the fish accumulate. And you eat that. Even the caffeine is pretty sad. And they've done studies, even hundreds of thousands of chemicals. And fish are loaded. If you want a toxic piece of meat, go for the fish. I guess I could say, at least they weren't depressed when you built their dam, right? Right? They're like, oh, I can't get back home, but that's okay, I've got Prozac on board. So, what about polychloral nitrogens? They act like dioxins and cause cancer. And the reason I did this here for you is because fish again. Look at this, organic. Organic, buy it organically, it's better than regular. Organic salmon, they're looking at these horrible pollutants, 345. All right, come on. Next to poultry, chicken and eggs, 23.8, red meat, 16.4, dairy, bread, fruit, vegetables. So if you want to keep your body clean and have the least amount of toxins, what do you need to eat? It's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. Look at how much lower this is even than dairy. Eating dark fish increases your risk of heart arrhythmias. This was a wonderful study they did off of old Framingham. It doesn't mean a lot to a lot of you, but it's a powerful study. People eating greater than 4 servings per week of dark fish, salmon, mackerel, swordfish, sardines, had 6.5 times greater risk of having AFib. You don't want AFib. It's a nightmare. And one of the doctors knows it's a nightmare because he has to take people off Coumadin and bridge them with another medication, and it just becomes a big headache. You don't want that medication. You don't want that problem. So, should you be eating it? We're told we should, but who's telling us that? Fish oil does not lower the risk of cardiovascular disease. This is analyzed 20 studies, including 68,000 patients who used omega-3 fatty acids. All right, who's gone to the store and bought omega-3s? I have. I was duped. Seriously duped. I've still got a bunch in the closet. Anybody want some? I don't. Now, look at that. Isn't that ridiculous? So they followed for an average of 2 years and determined that fish oil had no effect on heart-related death, heart attack, or stroke. But they sure tell you to buy it all the time. You can get a pretty big, large jar at Costco. Fish oil supplements, no help to heart or brain. Here's another one. 2 new studies found that omega-3 supplements, often sold in the form of fish oil, do not improve the health of your brain or heart. And I won't go into all that, but it's 12,000 people. Type 2 it's just crazy. You don't need that. All right, what about milk? Is it a milk stash or a pus stash? This is my favorite part of the talk. What do you think it is? Well, 1 glass of milk contains 360 million pus cells, 1 million bacteria, and a whole bunch of bioactive hormones. Now, why would the Dairy Council allow 360 million pus cells in 1 glass of milk? Any reason for that? It's because those dairy cows live, eat, and sleep on their own poop. I think we've got a dairy farm right on the highway, Highway 5. You can see it. They live and sleep on their own poop. And what happens when their udder hits the ground? All that poop and all that bacteria is going for the lactose, the sugar in the milk. And what happens when it goes for that? All that bacteria gets in there and says, party time, sugar, let's eat it, yeah. And then the body says, hey, I'm being invaded, I've got to kill it. So the little white blood cells go out, kill the bacteria, and what's the byproduct? Pus. So they asked the Dairy Council, why do you allow so many pus cells in 1 glass of milk? They said, what's the problem? It's pasteurized. I said, oh, let's all sit back and have a sterile glass of pus and bacteria. I mean, that's like me coming up to you, popping my zit in your glass of water and saying, it's okay, just throw it in the microwave. It'll be sterile. That's just a tiny little bag. I mean, think about it, 360 million pus cells? And I have a great story. One of these patients came in. He's been vegan for a whole year. His cholesterol's dropped. He's just doing great. And he goes around telling this whole pus story. So he's telling this guy, oh, you got to get off milk. It's got all these pus cells in it. He's like, oh, really? Oh, man, I used to work on one of those farms. I used to scrape the pus and blood right off the top after we'd milk the cow and then drink it raw. He said that grossed him out. He got topped. All right, left side is cow with mastitis. That's what the milk looks like. And right side is normal milk. Still pus in that. But do you think that they throw this out? Volume filler. Yeah. Pasteurize it. It's okay. Little pus, green, whatever. You ever notice milk isn't quite white? It's a little off color. Think about that next time you pull out a gallon. Well, what about milk? Now, this is MRSA. This is a researcher from the UK and Denmark identified a new strain of highly resistant Staph aureus in humans that appears to have originated in dairy cattle. We're being infected by what we're being told to eat. Drink. What about zits? Got zits? Got pus? What about zits? Well, let's see. This story, dietary intervention of acne. So this is crazy stuff, but they found that this whole signaling cascade was only possible to decrease it by increasing consumption of fruits and vegetables, the major components of vegan and Paleolithic diets. And when I say Paleolithic, I'm not talking about what they say paleo, I'm talking about real Paleolithic. You know, they didn't eat meat all the time, 3 meals a day. Real paleo people did not eat like that if you look it up. We won't go into that, don't have time. And eliminating, what did I have here? Simple carbohydrates, dairy proteins, and meats and dairy proteins, leucine rich. So if you want to get rid of your acne, and I don't know of any 3 people right in the front that would not want to have their face look pretty. So do we want to go over to the gym and look at what they're promoting over on the walls about milk does a body good, make you look like you're really pretty? Should I go back, show you how pretty these people are? That's not pretty. These kids are really bummed out. They don't want to be called pizza face, right? I remember it happened to me. All right, so you want to get rid of that junk. It's just junk, guys. What about this one? Does anybody know who that is? Anybody? Who? Tony Hawk. You're absolutely right. I think this is a great one because Tony Hawk says milk can help prevent stress fractures and broken bones. That's pretty good for him. Is he a doctor? Has he done the research? Oh, I did. Let's see what happens. Oh, dairy products and calcium do not prevent stress fractures. Over 7 years, the girls consuming the most dairy products and calcium had no added protection. In fact, among the most active girls, exercising more than 1 hour per day, those who got the most calcium in their diets, coming mostly from dairy products, had more than double the risk of stress fractures compared to those getting less. Maybe someone needs to call Tony. What about this? Dairy products increase your risk of prostate cancer. I don't want prostate cancer. I'm not going to eat pus. I don't like that stuff. They follow these people for 28 years, 21,000 people. You had a 12% increased risk. It might not sound a lot. I don't want that increased risk. I want to be in the lowest risk category possible. Here we go again. Skim milk increases risk for early stage prostate cancer. And whole milk, whole milk showed that men drinking more than 1 glass per day doubled the risk for fatal prostate cancer. Just toss it, man. Almond milk, soy milk, oat, hemp, rice, whatever your desire. You know how many pus cells are in it? 0. No pus cells. No human growth hormones. No chemicals. And I could go on all day about that stuff, but I'm not going to. It's just bad stuff. What about your pearly whites? This is going to be fun. Well, diet, nutrition, the prevention of dental diseases, the most significant effect on nutrition on teeth is the local action of diet in the mouth and the development of dental caries and enamel erosion. And dental erosion is increasing as the association with dietary acids, a major source, which are soft drinks, and there is convincing evidence collectively from numerous studies that an association between the amount of frequency of free sugar intake and dental caries, but show that consumption of starchy staple foods like potatoes, right, rice, vegetables, fresh fruit are associated with low levels of dental caries and dental erosion. So you're going to have the best mouth, and you're going to look the prettiest and smile the brightest if you eat plants, not if you eat meat, right? Conclusion, current evidence supports a diet of high fruits, vegetables, and plant-based foods for prevention of oral cancer. Just one more reason, right? What about this one? Association between chronic periodontitis and vasculogenic erectile dysfunction. That's an interesting association. But I thought what was most interesting is the age. They were finding erectile dysfunction at 35 years old, and if they had bad erectile dysfunction, then they had horrible mouth. What did it look like? Is this the one with a beautiful picture? Yeah, there's periodontitis. That's what it equals. Get my drift? I just want to make sure you see that. So here's what, think with your penis. Your penis thinks you should stop smoking. That's all I have to say about smoking. I had to bring that in here. What about soy? Soybeans, tofu, yummy good stuff. Look at this, soy reduces inflammation. The more soy products a woman consumed, the less inflammation they experienced. Soy helps reduce hot flashes. Severity of hot flashes were reduced 26% and the frequency by 21%. Look at this, soy protects women from breast cancer. Have you ever, anybody had a friend that said, oh, I can't eat soy, I've had breast cancer? Well, the studies have gone totally against that. They found that soy is actually protective, and that's what they're showing here. I've seen studies actually showed up to 60%. This one's showing 25%. Those who consume the most soy products, 1 to 2 servings per day, were 25% less likely to have recurrence of their breast cancer. So if you have people that have breast cancer and they're afraid of soy, tell them no. You need to look up the data and you need to start eating soy because it's protective. Preferably started when you're a lot younger, but you know, any little bit's going to help. Whoa, low-fat, plant-filled diet reduces weight and symptoms of menopause. Again, women were 3 times as likely to lose weight compared with the control group when they ate a low-fat diet with more fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Now you guys are getting it, right? So this is one of my patients. She was so, you know, I can't even tell you, I must have 1,000 patients that have gotten better. And they were here earlier, and she was so nice to give me this picture. Oh, you're back there. I thought you guys left. Thank you for coming back. Anyway, this is one of my patients, and she sent this to me, of this picture, before, okay? Now, she didn't do a vegan diet because she wanted to do a vegan diet. She did a vegan diet to support her husband, who needed to do a vegan diet, and has done much better because of it. But the side effect of just living with somebody that you're supporting in doing this is that. 6 months. You know, she lost 31 pounds, went from a size 16 to a size 10. And that wasn't anything. I didn't sell her a pill. I didn't sell her a book. I didn't sell her a DVD. I said, it's not only my way. No, I said, just do this. Just eat plants. And look what happens, just as a side effect of supporting someone else. Fantastic, great job. So this is what else she wrote, and I want you to see this. 6 months on a plant-based diet. She exercises 20, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Her body pain is gone. Her energy levels are off the charts. Works 2 jobs during this time to help pay her husband's medical bills. And she also knows that sugar and meat would cause her arthritis to get worse. So she made a change for him so he would get better, but she was the big winner. Powerful stuff, and this is just one study. I mean, I can't even tell you. I wish I had taken pictures of every patient. I really just don't have the time when I'm the only one that was doing it in my office with all the other stuff I have to do. But that's fantastic. Lose weight, cut down on meat and cheese. You're kind of getting it, right? I don't have to go through this anymore. It's just more data, and I'm not going to do that anymore. What about stress? Are you stressed? Bang your head here. I think it's stress. My stripes are coming off. Yeah, well, does plant-based diet help? Seems to. Vegetarian diets improve mood and lower stress. 3 different diets were compared: vegetarian, meat-based, and meat and fish-based. After just 2 weeks, vegetarians scored significantly better on standardized moods and stress tests, and I've seen this in my own practice. Patients get better. Across the board, just about every single symptom you can imagine gets better. You just got to keep with it. If it doesn't work right away, just keep doing it. But I mean, we're talking 2 weeks. This is great. Vegetarians live longer. That's 10 more years for you to see your grandkids for men and 6.1 years for women. Maybe some people don't want to live longer, but if you do go vegan, you're going to not only live longer, you're going to live better and you're more healthier for it too. Right? All right, meat is bad for you in the environment. I would say all this, but do you know people that ate processed meat used a lot more carbon, and that's a big issue with a lot of people. It's not good for the environment, but that's not my soapbox today. So, how come you haven't heard about this before? Who stands to lose the money, guys? Meat and dairy, pharmaceutical companies, hospitals. I mean, think about it. How does a pharmaceutical company make money? Does it make money when you're well or dead? No. Make money when you're sick. Keep them sick enough. Keep giving them more pills. How does a hospital make money? Does it make money when you're well or dead? No. Why do we have the biggest hospitals in the world? Because we keep people sick, very well sick. In fact, one of the people I didn't put on here was Dr. Burkitt, who was a surgeon in Africa and was a famous surgeon that discovered Burkitt's lymphoma. But one thing that he discovered was when he was over in Africa, he only saw 1 heart attack in the 30 years he was there, and he was in Uganda. That's why I brought up Uganda. 1 heart attack in 30 years. Now, why only 1 heart attack? Well, one thing he noticed was fiber, fiber, fiber. These people ate 100 grams of fiber a day and very little meat and absolutely no dairy products. And so that's powerful stuff. And one thing that he said was, big poop, small hospital. Small poop, big hospital. Right? No fiber, you get sick, you get colon cancer, the hospitals get big because they're billing for all that work, surgeries. All right, so what are you going to do? You guys decided you want to at least try this. What's the most effective way? Well, there's any way. There's a whole slew of ways. You can do any way. You can go really slowly, you can go real fast. But if you want to have the most powerful experience with this, and you want to lose the weight, you want to feel better, you want to sleep better, you want to have increased energy, then you have to do 3 things that I'm going to show you here. These are the most important. They seem strict, but as long as you can keep moving that way, it's much better. So here they are. Eliminate animal food from your diet, including meat, poultry, fish, eggs, cheese, and milk. And keep your fat intake as low as possible, enjoying avocado, coconut, and other nuts and seeds only as occasional treats. That's important because people say, well, it's a plant. Yeah, well, in the old days, you used to crack nuts and actually have to get the nut out of it. Now you just go down to the store, twist off the top, and you can down 10 ounces of nuts, which is thousands of calories in a matter of a few seconds. And it really is a calorie in, calorie out. So if you want to have it, 1 ounce of nuts a day. That's a shot glass. Okay? It's not that you have to be deprived, but if you want this to be effective, that's what you should do. Avoid any fat in your food, including butter, margarine, and all vegetable oils, even olive oil. Sorry. In conclusion, all these beautiful, wonderful plants, there's plenty to eat. Look at this. I mean, this looks delicious. I mean, all those colors, you should really gravitate towards those colors. They're really healthy for you, you know. These are all the people that have decided to go plant-based for whatever reason they've wanted to. Some it's for animal rights, some it's because they want to look good, some it's because they want to feel good, some it's because they want to think good, you know. These are all things that you'll get better with if you eat plants. You all think about those arteries that I showed you. They all dilate up, you get more blood flow to it, you got more oxygen, you got more nutrients, you're going to be a highly functioning human being. In conclusion, it's not an exclusive club, guys. It's an all-inclusive club. Anybody can do it. You just have to make the choice to do it. There's no benefit to me. it's a benefit to you and your loved ones. And life, it's not about quantity. We don't have to live forever, but we want to live with good quality, and that's the most important thing. That's what I tried to tell everybody. Who cares if you don't live to be 110? I don't. I just want to live to be 70, maybe 80. But I want to live what I call the square wave of life. I want to go to 80 and I want to have it be done with. I don't want to be like a lot of these patients that I see that come in, and at 50 they're horrible, at 60 they're worse, and then at 70 they're in a wheelchair, and then they slowly degrade and then get Alzheimer's for the last 5 years of their life, and then they don't really care, and then it's the family that has that burden. And I don't want to be like that. And I don't think anybody that's ever come in my practice has ever really wanted that. They've never asked, say, hey, please, Dr. B, make sure I don't ever get that. But that's what I teach them, is that if you do this, you're going to put yourself in the lowest category of having these problems. So it's not about living longer. I love this picture. It's about living better. These are some Okinawan twins, some of the world's longest living population in Japan. So it's pretty, and still functioning. I think they're 114 or something. I forget the actual age. It's pretty incredible. Plant-based, right? And it's plant-based because that's what their culture taught them. They didn't have the American culture, teaching them meat. So this is a picture of me, Dr. McDougall. I have to give lots of thanks to Dr. McDougall. He's been, absolutely fantastic. The only reason I've been able to do this and rise to the level is standing on the shoulders of giants. And this guy has been doing it for 34 years. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal what he has done. And it's so funny because he just looks at it like, oh yeah, of course, this all works. I mean, is there any question? But for me, it was like a learning process. Wow, you can really do this? And yeah, it works. And I thank him immensely for allowing me to take part and take care of the patients that he had down at his immersion programs in Santa Rosa. Another person I like to give thanks for is nutritionfacts.org, Dr. Greger. What I tell people is if you really want to do this, do you have 3 minutes a day that you can educate yourself? 3 minutes. That's it. Well, it used to be every day. He had to change it because his donations went down. But every day, we'll say Monday through Friday, he puts out a 2 to 3 minute video on something about plant-based. Every year, he reviews between 7,000 and 10,000 nutrition research articles and puts out those videos. So anybody can understand it. And it's all cited. You can go read the research yourself. And it just makes it fun. So just imagine if you did that every single day and you did that for a whole year. Now you've got this huge mountain of information. And now you're not going to be swayed by what everybody says anymore. You're going to have good, solid information, peer-reviewed, not BS. It's all by donations. He's not supported by meat and dairy. He's actually he's the president of the Humane Society. Another person I have to thank too is also Neil Bernard. This guy's been instrumental in doing so many things in Washington that we don't even know about. It's one of the reasons that Ronald McDonald's not on your TV anymore, because he said it was unfair for Ronald McDonald to influence those children to come get mom and dad to take them to buy something that's going to kill them. And that's why you don't see those things anymore. We can't advertise to children because it's unfair. But he has worked very hard. He's been an instrumental guy in showing that you can reverse diabetes. Plant-based diet. Just a great guy. So if you ever get a chance, pcrm.org. In fact, that's Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine. Novel name, right? Responsible. But if you ever go to that website, there's lots of things. Vegetarian starter kits. He has 21-day vegan kickstarts. He has so much information. You could go to that whole website and be immersed in there for months on end, learning, and then make it really easy on you becoming vegan. Another movie I highly recommend for everybody is Forks Over Knives. And I like to tell you the analogy is if you don't change what you're eating and putting on your fork, we'll cut it out with a scalpel. Right? That's exactly what that means. And in that movie, you'll meet Dr. Esselstyn, you'll meet Dr. Campbell, you'll meet Dr. McDougall, you'll meet a couple other young physicians, Matt Lederman and Ilona Polde, who I've been very blessed with that I'm going to be able to work with them when I move down to LA here. But powerful, powerful stuff. You'll see people with type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, all these problems all get better. Even breast cancer, they show them get better. So it's a great movie, highly recommend it. This is what really reinforces what I'm telling you tonight. And these are the two. I'll be working for Whole Foods, so I apologize that I have to leave the community. It wasn't something that was an easy decision. I've been having a great time, and my patients have been very supportive of me staying, but also when they found out what I was doing, hopefully we'll do something much even larger. So let me tell you really quick what we're doing. This Whole Foods Market for the last 3 years has been sending patients to Dr. McDougall's and other immersion programs in the United States. And for the first year, they saved $11 million on healthcare expenditures. And that was huge. So rather than spending millions on sending these people to immersion programs across the United States, they said, well, what if we get a physician and have them try to teach our employees locally to eat plant-based? They don't have to do it, but we're going to try to encourage them. And so that's what they decided to do, and I've been very blessed, and I'll be able to work with these people, and hopefully we'll be able to do this in LA. and get all these people to do that and eat more plant-based and reduce health care expenditures more. And if we do that, then we're going to go to other Whole Foods hubs and eventually hopefully take this to corporate America. So we're trying to get that message out to the world, because I think it's unfair that we as human beings in society have been duped for this long. This is something very, very powerful that everyone needs to hear. Now, Reading Family Medical Group, Lisa Monroe, what does she have to do with any of this? Anyway, well, she went vegan about a month ago. Why'd she go vegan? Because she saw my patients. My patients are coming in and they're better, they're off their medication. She's like, this is crazy. So she started to do it. So she's been supporting all my patients on a plant-based diet. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to go see a family nurse practitioner at my ex-office at Reading Family Medical Group, and she'd be more than happy to help you out. Great, wonderful, bubbly, energetic, fantastic. And then this is another person that you may have already seen. This is at Dr. McDougall's, Gavin Maloney. He's a registered dietitian. He's a very good guy to see. There he is back there. He has worked with Dr. McDougall for over 2 years. He's a vegan. He teaches plant-based. He's got his master's in plant. He just knows so much, an unbelievable plethora of information. He also has a little table set up. He can communicate with him, and he can also get set up to where he can do dietary counseling with you. So I think it's a pretty reasonable price. So a great way to get somebody that can support this in our community when we don't have a lot doing this. The other thing is James Bennie MD, Facebook. If you guys really want to follow what I do, just go ahead and like me on Facebook, and you'll be able to see everything I stream on there. This is specifically for mostly plant-based stuff, and anything else I think is important that people need to be aware of. And really, the information you're going to find on there is all information to benefit you. It doesn't benefit me one bit. I don't sell anything on there. Anything on there is going to be for your benefit. And without any other questions, right now, I say thank you. And we'll get the questions. Thank you.